Hello, techies. Welcome to the Tech Times Africa podcast, where we'll bring you the latest stories on tech and startups in Africa. Catch us every Thursday at 10 a.m. WAT on techtimesafrica.podbean.com. Let us know what you think by giving us feedback in the comments or on our socials. Now, on with the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Tech Times Africa podcast. I'm Kelvin, and this is the 10th episode. With me, as always, is Karen. Karen, how are you doing?
Hey everyone, it's morning here. I'm not sure. No, it's afternoon. My goodness, it's afternoon here. I know it's morning where you are. So good morning, good evening, all the things.
All right. Today, we would be talking about a couple of developments in Kenya. I can see Kenya's national AI strategy. We will be talking about a court case over unfair dismissal of an employee and also Kenya's first crypto bill to regulate stablecoins and exchanges. So without further ado, let's get into it. Starting with Kenya's national AI strategy. Kenya has officially launched a national AI strategy that would position it as a leader in AI adoption and governance. We've seen a couple of countries in Africa move in this direction, and Kenya has just announced this, and I believe it's a very good step. As a country, as a continent, at the moment, AI seems like the fourth industrial revolution. So it's important that Africa is not behind. It's important that we are getting on board with this, and hopefully this helps to set Kenya as well as the rest of Africa at the forefront of AI adoption and development.
Yeah, absolutely. It cements into our minds as Africa that AI is actually here to stay. Because I think that while the rest of the world has caught up with it, we're still a little hesitant to realize that AI is here and it's going to affect the way we work and the way we live. And I'm really glad that the plan outlines how Kenya is hoping to become a regional leader in AI by embedding it across very key sectors for Africa. And I think that's amazing because we have to ensure that AI is working for us as a continent based on the needs that we have. So when I look at some of the sectors that it has highlighted, things like agriculture, healthcare, education, transport, government services, these are all things that are really important to Kenya itself and I think to Africa as a whole. One of the policies that excited me is AI curriculum development at universities and in technical colleges because the manner in which we are educating children has to change. Things like creative thinking, human design, analysis, these are things that have to come to the forefront of the way that we are educating children so that they are able to comfortably implement AI. And I think computer skills and AI knowledge has to start being embedded in schools, not just at universities and technical colleges, although this is where it's starting, it needs to start at a younger age. I also think that the creation of AI innovation hubs and sandboxes for startups is another thing that is being highlighted, which is very important. And I'm hoping to see real hubs that actually make a difference and not just hubs that are there but are not really leading any innovation. And then we're looking at how we can establish ethical and responsible frameworks for AI, which I think is still a gray area across the board, not just in Africa, and building cloud infrastructure that can support AI. So I think these are all really important things that the government has been highlighting. And it's key for us to understand that we have to make long-term decisions and create long-term policies for AI. So it gives startup owners, founders, and even people in tech the realization that they need to start aligning now. If they're working in some of these industries like healthcare, like edtech, how can they integrate AI into the work that they are doing? And how can they align what they're doing to what the government is doing so that they can start to unlock things like opportunities, research partnerships, and even grants for their businesses. So it's very exciting for me, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it will affect the startup ecosystem as well as the tech world in Kenya and even in East Africa.
Yeah, I'm happy about the way Africans are embracing AI. We're very curious about this technology, and I'm happy about that because last week we talked about Canteen AI that is building voice AI solutions for businesses. The important thing with a technology like AI is that you need representation. So you need Africans building AI technology because we've seen this with previous technology, for example, web technology. Let's say you're having certain symptoms and you, for example, you Google a rash that you're seeing on your skin. And a lot of the time, the pictures you would see online are people that don't look like you.
Yeah.
And that's because the people that are gathering the data are not people that look like you. So it's very important that we are getting into the development of this technology so that down the line we would also see AI solutions that feel and relate to us in a way that other Africans understand. So I'm really happy about these steps.
100%. And still on AI and still on developing for Africa, we're seeing Africa's first AI factory. It's powered by NVIDIA. It's built by Cassava Technologies, which is big news. I'm really excited about it. So, Cassava Technologies is building Africa's first AI and GPUs. And it's not just about infrastructure, it's about acceleration, right? It will support AI workloads in some sectors like healthcare, like finance, like telecom. And there's a big opportunity for startup founders to take. And I want to hear your thoughts on where you think this is going and why it's so important.
So, just like I said, AI is the fourth industrial revolution. So, it's important that we get representation. It's important that Africa doesn't miss out on the developments that are happening at the moment. What this means is that we can have data centers that are powered by AI technology, and this allows machine learning researchers, AI researchers, and people that work in that space to have these facilities that can train the large language models and other AI models that are key to making this AI technology. So this is the work that Cassava Technologies is doing with NVIDIA is quite important. 2 episodes ago, where we talked about gaming and data centers and how when you have data centers that are closer to your country, it helps you to get faster access to data. So if you have data centers for AI that are built, in this case, they are building this factory in South Africa, it means that one, it would also be accessible to Africans. Two, it means that the proximity of these data centers for training your machine learning models and AI models is also closer to you. And so it gives anyone using that model faster access from the African continent. So it's really amazing work that would pay a lot of dividends down the line. So I look forward to how this collaboration with Cassava Technologies and NVIDIA develops over the next couple of years.
Yeah, and just to round that off, I think it's also a big challenge for our tech people in Africa to start upskilling because I think that with the way we're seeing AI going, the demand for machine learning engineers and data scientists is about to explode. And so, as a continent, our tech people need to take this opportunity and take advantage of it and really start to upskill and have an understanding of some of the skills that will be highly in demand as we continue to see AI develop in Africa.
I believe I saw a few back in the day, but I haven't seen much activities from them. But what I'm referring to is AI developer communities. I haven't seen one in recent times, but I remember I saw a couple of them back in the day when many of us were still just trying to understand web technologies, and these people were talking about machine learning, and I'm like, oh, this is still far. I know it's obviously as a tech person, I understand this is very important technology, but I felt there was still some more time for that. But now the AI wave is here, and I'm not seeing too many of these developer communities. So I think developer communities, developer hubs for AI would be very key. And as well as some funding opportunities. I have seen a couple of funding opportunities for people building AI startups. So when you have all of these parts coming together, the developer communities, the hubs, the funding to build AI solutions, I think you start to see more and more Africans getting into the AI space. There are already a number of them that work in this space, but it's definitely a time to start to think about what you're doing, especially if you work in tech. And when I say work in tech, I mean technical tech, a developer, on whatever point of the development lifecycle you work in, you should start to consider how do you integrate AI into your workflow, or how do you get into building AI solutions. So moving on, I've seen a bit of a dispute between a company called Umba and a former executive. The case was about the dismissal of a former executive of Umba. The employee took the case to court, and the court has awarded $21,600 or 2.88 million KS. We have talked about employee welfare on the podcast a couple of times. And this is one of those situations where case became serious enough to get to court. I wonder, Karen, how do you feel about this? Because I know you're quite vocal about employee welfare.
I am so happy. When I was reading, I wanted to understand what had gone on. So this lady had been hired as the company's head of growth, and then she was dismissed a few months into the role because apparently there was poor performance and she wasn't able to meet targets. And she takes them to court and she shows that there were no clear targets that were given to her. Her performance was not formally evaluated. She was called on WhatsApp and told that she's been dismissed. There was no formal meeting, there was no written notice. I mean, the manner in which employers sometimes treat employees, especially in this startup space, is almost inhumane. And so this really excites me because while this case may not be like in the front news or anything, it's a signal of something important that Africans are starting to understand their rights as employees and fight for them. And I hope this will be the beginning of a trend because too many times as startups, we are so caught up in getting things done, we forget to do the things right. And I think this should be something that startup founders and business owners take up and think about that as you're starting your business and as you're scaling it, you need to figure out what are the labor compliances and how can you ensure that you are following labor laws. Do you have clear employee contracts? Do they align with local labor laws? Do you understand notice periods and severance? Do you understand what it means to take an employee through a disciplinary issue? Do you have the right internal processes? Are you documenting everything that you're doing with employees? Because if it comes to word of mouth, like your word against theirs, the court usually sides with the employees. However, not a lot of employees understand their rights. So, on both sides of the scale, I hope that startups understand that they need to follow certain rules and they need to ensure that there is paper trail for everything that they're doing within the company and there are proper structures. And also for employees to understand that you have certain rights. And if someone has not protected your rights, then the courts are there to do that for you. And I'm really glad to see that courts in Africa are actually listening to such cases and ensuring that the rights of employees are protected. And I really love the fact that the settlement was substantive. I remember there's another time we were looking at another case and we were like, that fine was too little for it to matter, but this was a good fine. So yeah, I'm really happy about it. Governance isn't just about raising money if you're a startup, it's about sustaining your reputation, right? So the manner in which you treat your people is very key to your reputation.
Yeah, it's very key that you treat people that work with you well. One curious thing I found with this case was that the employee in this case hired for the role of head of growth was put on a 6 month probation. I don't know much about the regulation and laws around this, but I feel like such a senior role, if you're hiring someone that high up in your company, should they be under 6 months probation? It just seems like such a long time for me. And I also learned from this case that even under probation, there are rights as well that the employees have, and you can't just let someone go even during probation. So that was an interesting discovery for me. I'm happy this happened in a way because over time you need precedence for more action to happen. So it's like when you want to take up certain things, you may be worried because you look around, not many people are doing it. But as you start to see precedence with this, okay, this person took the company to court and they got something in return. It enables more people to speak up. It enables more people to stand up for their rights. So this is important. May not be big news, but it's important for everybody in the space, both the employees and also startups, to understand that you can't just do whatever you like. You still need to understand the rules and regulations.
So just to reiterate something, most of the time you'll find that it depends on the position that you're taking. So there's some companies that will ask you to do probation for 3 months, especially when you're a junior hire. And then the higher up and the more weight that your position has, the more probationary period you may have to take. So like you may have to go 6 months probation. I do find that some people take advantage of some of these laws. They would ask you to give 2 months of notice of leaving the company. However, as a rule in Kenya, the notice period is 1 month, unless you have a very high position in the company, in which case you may need to go up to 3 months of a notice period. But those are heads of department, CEOs, people who are very critical to the running of a company. So I think that the problem is some laws are quite difficult to fully interpret in terms of what does it mean for someone to be a critical hire for you, right? But I also believe that a lot of companies take advantage of the fact that employees do not understand the law. Now, we're both very passionate, so we may discuss this forever.
Yeah, I think we can move on.
Yeah, so let's look at crypto. Crypto is on the table in Kenya. It's the Kenya's first proposed bill for crypto, and the regulation is aimed at governing stablecoins and exchanges. So what I find is that this is a double-edged sword in terms of a regulation will bring legitimacy. You remember what we were talking about in terms of people trusting crypto in Africa and feeling that it's something that they can work with. So I think this creates that. It creates legitimacy, it gives investors confidence, but it also has the capacity to shut down smaller players who can't keep up with licensing and compliance costs because some of these things are very expensive. But it also protects the user.
Yeah, it does. It's always a tough balancing act with regulation. You want to be friendly so that businesses, startups, and investors would be attracted to build solutions in this area. But sometimes it raises the barrier of entry for anyone that wants to be a player in that space. Either way, it's always important to have regulation around something. What's more important or what should be worked on is for the Central Bank of Kenya to work with the players in this space so that the exchanges, the investors, and people that are interested in building solutions to understand the challenges so that they could write the regulations in a way that favors everybody somehow, or a regulation that everybody will come to an understanding on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just for any startups who are in Nairobi and are being affected by this, some of the things that you need to start understanding is regulations for Know Your Customer, KYC, regulations for anti-money laundering, AML, how to register with local authorities. You may have to have capital reserves. I'm not yet sure about that, but that should be something you research. And then how do you report your taxes? Are you reporting your taxes properly? Do you need to hire someone to actually audit your books? These are some things that you need to think about. So I would ask that you probably seek legal counsel and start figuring out what are some of the places where you may be liable and you don't understand, and then form strategic partnerships. So are there regulated entities that you can partner with who have some of the licenses that you need, like banks and licensed wallets. And then how do you start building compliance into your technology and into the products from the first days? So how do you ensure identity verification? How do you detect fraud? How do you do transaction monitoring, where every day you're looking at the transactions that are going out and you're able to see red flags? Do you have limits? Past a certain amount, you start to figure out, is this person doing something funny within our business? So those are some of the things that I would advise new startups who probably don't have full understanding of what this would mean. These are some places to just go and look at immediately, so that you're able to start building in compliance even as we wait for this bill to be passed.
Or they can take some of that funding they've raised and hire people that can handle that area for them. Quite expensive, but yeah, it saves you a lot in the long run if you can afford it.
Yeah.
To wrap up, Purple Elephant Ventures secures $500,000 in investment in funding to bring its total seed funding to $5 million. While looking at this company, I see that they are a venture studio dedicated to African tourism innovation. We've talked about startups a lot on this podcast and even offline, but I don't remember seeing one in tourism, and that's a big part of a lot of African countries. So I was quite curious to see a company building solutions in this space. So what's your take on this, Karen?
Tourism is such a big thing for Africa. We have really amazing sites. We have all this wildlife. We have culture that people really want to come and interact with. When I saw it, it was like it should be there, and you never thought about it needing to be there. So this was really refreshing that we have a startup that is focusing on such a key space in the African continent. And I think this is a great example of actually innovating for what is required in a country or in a continent. Because I think agriculture and travel and tourism are two huge sectors across multiple countries in Africa. So to see people who are very focused on it being climate, tech, and tourism, like it's so simple yet so profound. So I'm really excited about it. And the fact that they've been able to raise money shows that there is a high level of investor confidence in this sector. And they are helping other startups build niche businesses for this space. So I'm really excited to see that. I live in a town that is a tourist attraction. Rift Valley as a whole has so many lakes and so many game parks that are tourist attractions. So we can build climate conscious travel startups, and the intersection between sustainability tech and African tourism is a space that I think most of us have not thought about, but it's so crucial and so critical. So I think some of the problems to think about solving is about the fact that number one, travel is too seasonal and hard to stay in. African startups generally, when it comes to tourism, focus very little on tech. We just focus on getting people here and then taking them around. A lot of money has been flowing into fintech and into e-commerce, but I think tourism could be a big game changer for Africa. So this is something that I'm very interested in. And the fact that if you niche down, you can actually solve a problem in a better way. And I think that's what Purple Elephant is doing.
Yeah, and looking at the challenges like you just mentioned, the factor I see now, I believe that's part of the reasons this studio launched a couple of companies under the studio. There is Nomad Africa, a travel discovery tech platform. There's Safari, interesting name, a SaaS platform revolutionizing booking for African hospitality operators, as well as a couple of others that they have launched. I think these niche opportunities altogether are working independently, but they are still under the studio. So if business is slow in this area, then there's business in this other area, and they just keep the business going. So it's quite clever the way they're approaching this problem. the fact that they have gotten $5 million in seed funding. I mean, tourism is just there. The opportunities are just there. And they have definitely capitalized on this. And it's interesting. I will be keeping an eye out on them.
Yeah, absolutely. And it actually raises a few questions for me. How can we raise experiential tourism? How can we take advantage of the nomad lifestyle that has now become a thing? How can we use tech and sustainability to make sure that perhaps in terms of the seasonality, where we try and reduce that by making nomad tourism and nomad lifestyle and workspaces something that works in Africa? Because we have very affordable costs of living. So how can tech help us in terms of making sure there's connectivity and Wi-Fi and real estate and all these things so that we start attracting more nomads into Africa and having them stay for a while? I think that would boost tourism. And then how do we bring in experiential tourism? Things like agri-tourism is also something that's growing in Africa. So as you say, I'm really excited about this and I'm really looking forward to seeing how it goes for Purple Elephant.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Tech Tides Africa podcast. Remember, leave a comment or share with your friends. We'll see you next Thursday at the same time and place you get your podcast. Until then, stay well.